any sort of feedback to anybody?
5 minutes ago,
Tell me your feedback.
Ellen gave me some oil to put on my back and thank her for doing so.
And that was feedback. Absolutely. Tell me another time.
I told
Flash.
Jason Cook he did a fantastic job, and I really liked his voice, the way he speaks. He said he had some broadcasting training in college.
Good feedback. What else? CJ.
Did our biannual corporate review.
Yes.
I suggested that I would like to have separate PTO for 6 days instead of having to use my fund PTO for 6 days.
Okay. So that was feedback that disagreed a little bit with the current policy, correct? Okay, still feedback. What else? Ever left a Google review?
Oh, I love it. Amazon review.
An Amazon review. Have you ever left a Google review that was 3 stars? And all it was stars. Yeah, that's actually popular out there. But all it was stars. It didn't tell us anything. It didn't say why those other 2 stars weren't on there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all part of what we get to practice in Toastmasters with effective evaluation. Yes, today we're going to talk about how this fits our pathways model and how we use it inside our clubs. The lessons we learn here are just like what Daryl was sharing with us a few minutes ago. We can take them to all areas of our lives. So when you are ready to leave that next Google review, you're going to leave more than 3 stars and didn't like the food. You're now going to be able to say 3 stars, beautiful interest, great staff. However, the food was cold. That's an effective evaluation. So let's dive a little bit today. We're going to talk about 3 different things. First of all, what is it? How do we do it? And what happens next? You're going to see a lot of words come up on the screen, but you're all nailing it down to what is it? How do we do it? And what happens next? So let's talk. Just 1 second. What is an evaluation? How does an evaluation benefit us? What are the goals of evaluation in Pathways? Where do I find those tools? How do I give it? That's going to be the meat of where we are today. And what do I do after it? It's not over. Whenever you hand off the form, my friends, there's more to it. So what is it? It is actually the heart of our Toastmasters program. John Maxwell said, most people think that experience is the best teacher. Evaluated experience is our best teacher. So this is the heart of what we get to do here. We get the experience, then we get immediate feedback. It's also down to its core, verbal and written feedback on a speech. If you are brand new, if you're learning, that's what we talk about when we say evaluation in Toastmasters. Also, it's about the speaker and their goals. It's not about how beautifully we do it. It's not about all the negatives we just are dying to tell them. It's not about how we feel on the inside at that moment. It's about the speaker and their goals. And it is meant to be supportive and encouraging with growth suggestions. 3 stars, loved the interest. The food was cold. We'll probably go back if the food's warm when I eat it again. Supportive and encouraging with growth suggestions. Now, what isn't it? This is actually my favorite side of the list. It's not a book report. How many of you all have given that? I have. I have given a book report. I just so loved Brad's speech when he was talking about his sister and the things that were happening in their life. I just could really feel all of that. And it took me back to my childhood. And I just was so able to remember the feeling of being with my sister when I was sitting on the front porch of my grandmother's house. That's a book report, my friend. There's a time to do that. Please sit down with Brad after he gives the speech. Have those one-on-one conversations. However, not in your 3 minutes at the podium. It's also not about the content and whether we agree with it. If you noticed in contest last night, when our contest chair was reading the rules, the statement was, there may be subject matter that is of a sensitive nature. What they were really telling you right up front is, you may not like what you're about to hear. I don't have to agree with the speech to provide an effective evaluation. About 6 months to a year ago in our club, I was the evaluator for a member of our club who gave a completely polar opposite view of COVID response. 10 seconds into him speaking, I was thinking, I have to resign. I'm leaving the club today. Because there was that immediate visceral response to what he was saying. Then I had to step back, put myself in my evaluator's shoes, and say, I am not judging the topic. I am judging the presentation. And is he meeting the goals of his pathway? So I don't have to matter you. It's not about me, like I was just saying. We want to because that's who we are. We want to really grab hold into how it affected us emotionally. And there is a time and place for that. The evaluation is not necessarily in your 3 minutes there. It's not a full retelling of everything you have on the paper in front of you. You get 3 minutes, my friends, and when we get into the depth of it in a minute, you're giving a speech in those 3 minutes. So you're not reading every line you wrote down. And it's not a love fest or a whitewash. It's also not a slang session. So both sides of here, you have what it is and what it isn't. So when we talk about a love fest or a whitewash, you're not telling everything wonderful that they did and then getting to the point and saying, I just couldn't see anywhere where Charmaine could improve. I love Charmaine dearly. But it's okay. You want to help her improve. It's also not a, you know, when Charmaine first opened her mouth, I just knew this was going to be a difficult speech. I have 27 reasons why she should never speak again. That, my friends, is a slang fest. We don't go there either. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Who does this benefit? So I told you it's not about you, right? We just said it's about the speaker. The first thing we know is it does benefit the speaker, and for multiple ways. In Pathways, the evaluation is required. The speaker will learn from what we have to give. Even if we don't feel qualified at that moment, we are giving opinion. We are not giving coaching and counseling. We may have that ability, and we may give that. But part of this is for the speaker to be able to be in a position to accept the opinion. Even if they don't agree with us, they're accepting the opinion. So the speaker benefits. Now, I've told you it's not about you, but you also benefit from this. I did not give a speech in my club for about 6 months. You can go back and check our agendas. What I did do was evaluate. I became a better speaker by evaluating. And part of this is what we're going to talk about in a minute. How did that happen? It forced me into the process. I despise processes. I am a run on the cuff of the things sometimes. I love for other people to be in processes, and I can create processes with the rest of the world all day long. But ask me to walk in them, no, doesn't always work. Evaluation forced me into the process. So I benefit, you will benefit, and your club will benefit. Everyone who hears the evaluation has that ability to say, did they agree with me? Did they not agree with me? Did they see something I didn't see? Did they catch perhaps something I saw that they didn't? We provide role models for new club members whenever we do that. So it is a triple threat at this moment. Now, what are the goals of those evaluations? The speaker goals are growth. What do you think the goal for the evaluator is? Growth. What do you think the goal for your club is? Growth. Everything we do should help raise us to the next level. And just like Vivian told us this morning, if we solve all of those conversations with what's in it for them, what am I doing for them, rather than what am I doing for me at this moment, then everybody can grow in the process. Now, get your pens and pencils ready, because now we've talked about what it is, we're going to start talking about how do I do it. So where do you find the tools to start the evaluation? There are tons of places for us, but the very first thing is the Pathways project for that speaker. You will find that on your club agenda. You'll be able to click on there if you're using Free Toast Host as the agenda creator. You'll be able to pull up their program project description. You'll be able to pull up your evaluation form. And when we get into nuts and bolts line by line in a second, you're going to see when did you do that. But you start there. It is not my opinion of what I think their goal is. We start with their Pathways project. Next is Pathways trainings. You can find the trainings if you want to watch them before you present your evaluation. You have that opportunity. You also have club mentors who can help. In our club, she knows this is coming because it's in every presentation I give. One person in our club can tell us to do something. Miss Mary. If Miss Mary says do it, we do it.
Amen.
But what Mary doesn't do is throw you to the wolves. Mary walks you to the podium, stands right beside you, tells you what to read and when to read it, so that you understand the process of it. That's a club mentor, my friend. And that's what every club needs. Your vice president of education can help with the evaluation because it's part of Pathways. And Toastmasters articles and seasoned Toastmasters. Why did I tell you all of that? You're not in this alone. You have a lot of tools in the toolbox to do this. Evaluation can feel like one of the scariest moments. You literally get maybe 5 minutes from the third speech on the list to when evaluations might start, depending on the length of table topics and how your club structures an agenda. So you need to have some preparation mentally in advance so that you're ready when you are at the podium. Now, if you have questions along the way, raise your hand, ask me. I may say, hey, we're coming up on that. I may say, let's talk about that after the fact. Or I might answer it in the moment. But now we're headed into those nuts and bolts. Your club may do it a little bit differently. That's okay. We all kind of follow the same structure. So if you have questions along the way from this point on, let's answer them. Everybody good? Anybody need to stretch, move, jump up and down?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you recommend that the evaluator talks to the speaker before the meeting to find out what they want to do, or are they just go in cold and do it?
Great question. We're about to get to that. So Robert led us into the next section. You're on the agenda. So this is started. Miss Mary has said, I really feel like it would be good for you to be an evaluator. I've signed you up for next week. So when Miss Mary has put you on the agenda, you say, yes, ma'am. And then you start following these steps. Everybody ready? You're on the agenda. Before the evaluation. Two things before we dive into this. There may come a time when you walk into your club meeting at 7:25 on a Wednesday morning, and the Toastmaster looks at you and says, we don't have an evaluator for speech 3. Will you be our evaluator this morning? Most of us are going to say, yes, but. So what did they be and just tell us? Yes, and I'm going to give you permission to do something completely different. I'm going to give you permission to say, I am not yet at that stage where I can evaluate. Can I sit with a more seasoned evaluator? Okay, that's part one. Part two, you can say, yes, I'm ready to go. However, in the ideal world, you will know before 7:25 on a Monday morning that you are the evaluator. You know who you're evaluating at that moment, hopefully. You know their pathways, projects, and goals because they are great Toastmaster members and they have filled it out on the agenda in advance. Or the Toastmaster has gotten that info for you. If not, ask so you can get to that point. If you've done that, you had that in your toolbox, you have spoken to the speaker. So if Charmaine is my speaker, even if it's the day before, the night before, sometimes even if I have to do it 10 minutes before she's going to speak. Charmaine, are there specific areas today you would like for me to notice and do feedback on? And if Charmaine says, I am working on how the 3 points fit into the overall message, can you help me understand the clarity or talk about the clarity of those points? Great. I had her pathway project and goals. Now I've got that additional focal point. She actually just made my job easier because I'm not all over the board. I can focus, and she gave me the premise of the speech I'm about to give. So talk to the speaker in advance if you can. The next part, ask the general evaluator or a mentor to give you feedback after. Ladies and gentlemen, you are giving a speech. You are sharing from the podium. This is not, I'm just marking off the rolls so I can get my full circle award and Regina will punch my card. You are presenting and you have valuable feedback to present. You then want to be evaluated. What did Maxwell? Experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is. You want to be evaluated. The next part, gather your supplies. You don't want to go into this cold. You don't want to be digging for your pen. You don't want to be dealing with all of that. You want to be prepared. Now you'll notice, I tell you to have the project, but I also tell you you're going to need your own note paper. You're going to need to be ready for this, and you're going to have to be ready to start listening. Any questions so far? We're at before. Okay, now we're moving into the middle. You are in the process of giving the evaluation. That actually starts before you hit the podium. It starts when you write the first note on your paper or on the project form. One of the hardest things to do in Toastmasters is when we are hearing that compelling story, is to not get caught up in that story. If we are the evaluator, remember, I'm not evaluating content. I can't evaluate content for relevance to the room. I can't evaluate how the story is told could resonate with the room, but I am not agreeing or disagreeing with the content. We have some club members that have shared some of the most personal and agonizing stories. And if I'm the evaluator, it takes every drop in me not to sit there and emotionally identify the whole time. There have been some points I've had to put one foot on top of the other and literally press down as hard as I can to get my mind to switch so that I won't be in an emotional response. I figured pinching myself would be too obvious. So, but we have to focus in of not getting caught up in the story. We won't be providing the value that the Toastmaster or the speaker needs at that moment. Now, remember, it's not about you. Pay attention to the goals. One thing I do, and we're going to talk about that extra piece of paper in a minute. So at the top of my extra piece of paper, I write down what are the goals they've told me or what are the goals from their project. So that focus-wise, I'm looking at something while I'm also hearing. Have that extra paper. On that paper, I sometimes will make quick columns. What are they doing great? What are they doing to improve and how can they grow? That is not on the form I necessarily give back to them. Those are my notes because I'm about to give a presentation. This is usually what goes to the podium with me, not the form I'm handing off to them. Because this is what I know I'm going to have to talk about. I'm also making other notes. We'll talk about how that works. Now, we're moving in. When we are making those notes, if I can encourage you more than anything, evaluate for the speaker's level. Have you ever had this happen or seen this happen? Someone gives their icebreaker. And the evaluator tells them 17 things they did wrong. Or 3 things they could have done to improve. They got up there. That is worthy of all the praise we can give them. And if you will notice on the evaluation form for icebreaker, it is very clear. Praise, praise, praise. However, if you have an experienced speaker, you're going to have an opportunity to speak truth to power. The last slide you're going to see in a few minutes talks about that. Evaluate for the level. So what are you evaluating? If we're not on the emotional side, if we're not diving deep and holding on to the story with them, what are we looking for? Some of this comes from Toastmasters directly. Some of this comes from Verity Price, who was the winner of last year's contest. She has some very good points. She's also won her district evaluation contest. First is the structure. Could you follow it? Did it make sense to you? Remember those 3 columns? What they did well, where can they improve, how can they grow? Structure could go into all 3 of those columns. Remember, you're giving yourself notes for what you're about to talk about. Is the message clear? Could you tell what they wanted us to leave the room with? What was their general style? Was it funny? Were we supposed to learn something? Was it motivational? Could you not tell? Or was it a mix of all 3, 4, 5, 6, and too much? How did they use their gestures and their screen and stage time? I am well aware I have a camera. Otherwise, I'd be all the way over here hugging Brad. Because I love to move and be in the moment whenever I'm talking and sharing. But how did they use their stage? What type of language and stories did they use? And was their voice high, low? Was it too soft? Was it way too loud for the room? All of that fits into what are you trying to get across? What is that overall delivery? Now, we have gone from before, during, now you're at the podium, my friends. Before you get to the podium, you've got to have your notes because you are speaking. What are you going to talk about? Think of it. Any other thing you're going to do, you're going to have an opening, you're going to have a body, and you're going to have a closing. Same thing here, opening, the body. What did they do well? What can they improve? How can they grow? What's the summary of those 3 things? And then what's the closing? I'm going to share a really personal story very quickly. And because he's in the room, it's like speaking truth to power. When I was in evaluation contest, which none of this applies to evaluation contest, by the way. This is all for fun. Daryl was the test speaker. The moment I saw his name come up as test speaker, I about resigned Toastmasters. But he gave a wonderful story that I could build the opening and closing around. You can set your opening and closing around what the speaker is talking about without making it something all about you. He talked about cows. Well, it had to be a moving experience. That's just really bad, wasn't it? But when you're thinking about how you get to structure what you're going to share, you can build on that. Now, are we done? Nope. You've got that written feedback you're going to give on the pathway, and talk with the speaker if you can and they're open to it. Also, get your feedback. Now, here's the bonus section from Auntie Tawny. You are giving a speech. This is not, I'm getting up there and reading. It's okay if you do. Maybe where you are, and that's wonderful. Thank you for stepping out, but you are giving a speech. Condense and focus. You are not reading everything on your form. I suggested about 2 things that they've done fabulous. 1, maybe 2 ways they could overcome some challenges. What's a big growth jump for them? Okay, this is my pet peeve. I wish you had added. My friends, they had 5 to 7 minutes. If we tell them, I really wish you'd expounded on that story about your grandmother on the porch, because I really feel like we didn't get this, and this. If you tell them that, tell them what they should have taken out. They had 5 to 7 minutes. If they only spoke for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, they had 2 more minutes. That's a different story. Speaking truth to power. It is okay if it's a seasoned Toastmaster and you are not. If you tell them one way that I thought you might have done this a little bit better, what? I had a new Toastmaster almost ream me out in an evaluation, and it was one of the best I've ever received. He didn't look at it the way we look at it. He didn't really follow structure, but he told me 2 things I did not as well as I could have. And that's something that stuck with me, and I learned from it.
What were they?
First of all, he caught me on the fact that I was not prepared for the speech, and I had not worked my points out well enough. So, general evaluators. If you are serving as general evaluator in the club meeting, please evaluate the evaluators in your recap. Make that a point. That's how the club learns. Otherwise, they don't know if that was a good evaluation or not. And clubs, mentor your evaluators like you do speakers. We have to have a good evaluators to have good speakers. Now, in Auntie Tawny's classes, you get homework. So here's one of the last things. Charmaine and Elizabeth are going to pass out some blank pieces of paper for a quick second. When you get that paper, please write today's date at the top, April 29th, 2023. You can also write on your own paper, but please make it a brand new sheet if you're using your own paper. We started with some questions at the beginning. What it is, how do we do it, what's next? You are now in the what's next section of today. Today's date is 4/29/2023. We have learned what is an evaluation, who does it benefit, what are the goals, where are the tools, how do I give it, what do I do after? Here's your homework. Take one thing you have heard today. Be very specific. Don't just be generalized on this. One thing that can benefit you, can benefit the next speaker that you evaluate, can benefit your club. Write it down and put a date on when you're going to do that, or at least take the first step for it. It can be, I'm going to make sure that I read the project evaluation before 2 minutes before the clock starts. It can be, when I'm general evaluator in 3 weeks, I'm going to make sure I evaluate the evaluators. It can be, I forget a pen every time I go. I'm gonna have a pen. Something very specific though. It can be, I'm going to remember that the speaker's goals are what matter. I will do that by, what are you gonna do to make that happen? That's your homework. That's between you, yourself, your club, whatever you want it to be. Now, if you need the slide deck, scan the QR code. All my contact info is up there.